Things are not going well for Donald Trump, and that is the understatement of his entire presidency. We see a recession is imminent, the market is collapsing, and so is Trump's brain. Clearly, every time we see him in a public appearance, he is saying something stranger, acting weirder, and more incoherent than ever, which has come to be expected from our co-president. But then that comes out on Truth Social, and it gets even weirder and even angrier, which is exactly what we see from Donald Trump as the economy that he promised to fix, which was booming under President Biden, is now collapsing under him. And especially when Bernie Sanders is twisting the knife, do we see Donald Trump throw an even bigger tantrum, which is exactly what happened. And we're going to check it all out, both the incredible speech from Bernie and the meltdown from Trump. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into the Trump tantrum, of course, we got to listen to Bernie Sanders. So let's check out a bit of his speech right here.
People all over this country understand we are a nation today that faces enormous crises. Sadly, the continuing resolution passed Tuesday in the U.S. House, and which will come to this body very shortly, not only does nothing to address these crises, but in fact, it makes a bad situation much worse. Today, at a time when we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had in the history of this country, 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. And what that means, Mr. President, I grew up in a family living paycheck to paycheck. It means that people are worried about how they're going to afford housing. What happens if their landlord raises the rent? People go to the grocery store and they see the high price of food and wonder how they're going to feed their kids. People are looking at the outrageous cost of childcare, but you need childcare if you're going to go to work. How can you afford childcare? Our healthcare system is dysfunctional. People worry about how they can afford healthcare if they are lucky enough to be able to find a doctor. That is the reality of what's going on in our country today. Rich are getting richer, working people are struggling, and 800,000 Americans are sleeping out in the streets. So given that reality, what does this bill do? The bill written by the right-wing extremists in the House of Representatives without any bipartisan discussion at all. What does this bill do? Well, let me count the ways that it makes the financial struggles of working people even more difficult than they are today. And it does all of that, Mr. President, to lay the groundwork for massive tax breaks for Elon Musk and the billionaire class. For a start, some 22% of our seniors in this country are trying to survive on $15,000 a year or less, which to me is really quite incredible. I don't know how anybody, let alone a senior, survives on $15,000 a year or less. Half of our seniors are trying to survive on $30,000 a year or less. So what does the Trump-Musk administration do to address the terrible economic pressures on seniors all over America? Well, they got a brilliant idea. They illegally fire thousands of workers at the Social Security Administration with plans to cut that staff in half. Mr. President, in America today, 30,000 people die each year waiting to receive their Social Security disability benefits because of a grossly understaffed and under-resourced Social Security Administration.
No one has been better at delivering this message. Bernie is so spot on in the call out of Trump and what this MAGA agenda is doing and what this MAGA agenda is serving. It is the government, as Bernie says, for the billionaires and by the billionaires. They have bought their way into running things. There's no more influence. There's no more shaping of legislation. They're making the legislation. They're enacting the legislation through their unelected positions in the Oval Office. Dark money is no longer a part of our politics. Dark money is our politics. And that dark money is actually losing a lot of money right now because Donald Trump is tanking the markets. So they've kind of screwed themselves. And I think Trump recognizes that because of his meltdown right here. Trump wrote, "The globalist Wall Street Journal has no idea what they are doing or saying. They are owned by the polluted thinking of the European Union, which was formed for the primary purpose of screwing the United States of America. Their Wall Street Journal thinking is antiquated and weak and very bad for the USA. But have no fear, we will win on everything. Egg prices are down. Wrong. Oil is down. Wrong. Interest rates are down. And tariff-related money is pouring into the United States. Big ol' lie. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself." Yeah, I don't think Trump is FDR. I think the Herbert Hoover connection is a lot clearer. Roaring 20s, tanking the economy several times now. Good job, Donald. You're setting records. I don't think anyone has been this successful at tanking the economy. Big thumbs up. And of course, the billionaires are losing money, but when you have billions, losing a couple isn't going to kill you. But who it actually does impact are the people who voted for Trump, who Bernie continued to speak to in that speech right here.
And let's be clear. The House CR that was passed in an extremely partisan vote, I think they won by 3 or 4 votes, 1 Democrat out of 215 voted for it. The House CR and the Trump administration are doing everything they can to lay the groundwork for more tax breaks for billionaires, paid for by massive cuts to Medicaid, nutrition assistance, housing, and education. So you're looking at a 1-2 punch, a very bad CR, and then a reconciliation bill coming down, which will be the final kick in the teeth for the American people. This legislation that the Republicans are working on, the reconciliation bill, would cut taxes for billionaires in the top 1% by over $1.1 trillion over the next decade. According to a recent study, if all of Trump's so-called America First policies are enacted, the bottom 95% of Americans will see their taxes go up, while the richest 5% will see their taxes go down, way down. I should also mention that that reconciliation bill, which Republicans are working on right now, would also cut Medicaid by $880 billion. Tax breaks for billionaires, throwing low-income kids off of health care, decimating nursing homes all over America because nursing homes receive 2/3 of their funding from Medicaid, making it harder for community health centers to survive, who provide health care to 32 million Americans, because 43% of their revenue comes from Medicaid. Cut Medicaid by $880 billion. You will significantly deteriorate the quality of health care all over America at a time when the system is already broken. Further, the reconciliation bill proposes to cut at least $230 billion from nutrition. Today, nearly 1 out of 5 kids in America rely on federal nutrition programs to keep them from going hungry. And I find it rather remarkable that the richest person on earth, somebody worth hundreds of billions of dollars, that he and his other oligarch friends are working night and day to cut programs for the working people of this country and to actually deny food to hungry kids in America. There is no world, no universe, no religion that would not believe that that is grossly immoral and unacceptable. You don't give tax breaks to the rich and take food away from hungry children. Mr. President, the House CR bill that we will be soon voting on here is a piece of legislation I cannot support. Instead, what the Senate must do is pass a 30-day CR so that all members of Congress, not just the House Republican leadership, can come together and produce a good piece of legislation that works for all Americans and not just the few. We have an opportunity now to serve the American people. We have an opportunity to write something that reflects what people in the Congress feel, what the people in America feel. Now, I go around the country, and just a couple of weeks ago, I held a telephone town hall in Vermont. We are a small state, Mr. President. We only have about 650,000 people. And yet on that telephone town hall, there was some 34,000 people listening in. That is a significant percentage of a small state. I have been in many parts of the country recently. I have been in Iowa. I have been in Wisconsin. I have been in Nebraska. I've been in Michigan. And what I can tell you with absolute certainty is whether people are conservative, whether they're Republican, whether they're progressive, whether they're moderate, independent, whatever they may be, there are very few people in this country who think we should give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the rich and cut back on Medicaid, education, and nutritional programs for hungry children. So, Mr. President, what I strongly propose is that we pass a 30-day CR, that we do what has always been the case here in the Senate, have both parties work together to come up with a good piece of legislation.
This is the message we got to deliver. Kudos to Bernie every time he's delivering it, every time he's speaking it. That's why we love to elevate it on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, I really appreciate it. You can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.